This video is brought to you by Dbrand and their summer sale. Do you want to get up to $55 off the best Switch 2 case money can buy, their world famous kill switch? If so, visit dbrand.com/skillup or just stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Okay, Star Fox, they remade it again. Can you believe it? Yeah, you can. Remakes are all getting these days, and this is the next one, so buckle up and keep limbs clear. I think a really interesting starting point for this review is to explore that question more earnestly. Why the hell do they keep remastering or remaking this game, since this is literally the 5th time they've done it, depending on how you categorize each retelling of the original Lylat saga? Well, the truth is, Star Fox 64 was an instant, stone-cold classic that sat on the absolute cutting edge of game design, presentation, and technology. Hell, this was the game that came bundled with the Rumble Pack. The next time you're enjoying the haptics in your fancy PS5 DualSense Pro, remember the debt we all owe to Fox McCloud and his squad. Star Fox 64 was a near flawless arcade game at a time when it was novel and interesting and desirable to have arcade experiences playable in our living rooms. Its pick up and play gameplay made it immediately accessible, but its intricate level design and tight difficulty tuning created a vast skill ceiling that rewarded those willing to invest proper time into it. Its run-based branching path structure made the game even more enticing to play and replay, following your nose on each run or focusing on specific objectives and pathways to really push yourself. It also had a surprising amount of gameplay depth and diversity across its mission design and its range of vehicles, such that no two missions ever felt the same. All these years later, and recreated with such obvious love and care for the source material, all of these elements hold up brilliantly. If you know what this game is and you remember playing it and enjoying it back in the day, you're almost certainly going to love this because developer Veilguard Studios has done a wonderful job in bringing it to a modern presentation standard, complete with some new game modes that are sure to appeal to long-time series fans. Alongside that though sits another more interesting question. How much appeal might Star Fox hold for the person who has never played it before? Has its structure and its gameplay aged in such a way that it feels contemporary even today, or does it feel like a retro novelty that reminds us how different modern games are today? Well, it's going to sound like a bit of a cop-out, but I honestly think it's kind of both. I do think there are elements of Star Fox that feel fresh even in 2026, like its inviting premise, like its brilliant snappy controls, like its clever mission design, like its branching pathways and objectives-based gameplay. All of this sings as loudly as it did 30 years ago, and it feels particularly at home on a handheld device, which encourages pick up and play experiences, and the inclusion of couch co-op makes it really easy to play alongside kids. But there's no mistaking that this was a game that was made 30 years ago. You can feel it in the short mission duration, with some of them being as short as around 3 minutes long. You can feel that in the linear level structure, where it feels like the agile R-Wings are aching to stretch their wings more than the narrow levels allow for. You can feel it in the lack of progression or upgrade economy, which is a feature that most modern games have. And please, for the love of God, do not clip this and make it sound like I think this stuff should be in the game, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that games back then were built very differently to the way they're built today. The arcade game doesn't really exist anymore, at least not like it used to, and playing through Star Fox reminds you of that because it doesn't feel like anything you've played recently. That's going to mean that Star Fox is going to hit really hard with some, and it's going to be a total moonball miss for others. And honestly, both reactions are perfectly justified, and I'm going to be really interested to see where the balance on that lies. Separate from that fundamental question about the game's enduring appeal, there's also going to be commentary about how much this remake does or doesn't change versus the original. Purists will appreciate that the core gameplay and most of the level design remains untouched, but they may bristle at new cutscenes that offer a radically different tone for the crew, not to mention those controversial character models. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Veilguard push the level design further, since I think the narrow levels do feel a bit long in the tooth at this point, and I would have loved to have seen some wider arteries, more optional pathways, and some more demanding flight sequences that rewarded precision flying. I'll put it this way. I do recommend this, but not to everyone, and ultimately I found myself wishing that Nintendo gave Veilguard a little more latitude to expand this offering, because 30 years on, it does feel like some aspects of this package could have been refreshed without upsetting the delicate balance that made the original so wonderful and so loved.
Nice job, team. Status check. So many targets up here. You're missing out.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with Star Fox, let's cover the basics, because I think that understanding what this is may quickly filter out some people who are like, no thanks, that's not for me. Star Fox is primarily an on-rails arcade shooter that's mainly spent flying an R-Wing, but there are some levels involving a cute little tank and a spry little submarine. Most of the levels you play through are strictly linear in that they guide you on a very specific path, though some levels do have branching pathways that open up depending on which objectives you hit. There are also some all-range mode missions where you fly the R-Wing in a limited 360-degree space, either in dogfights with an enemy squad or with specific objectives in mind, like taking down a satellite array or defending your capital ship from oncoming missiles.
5 seconds. Bracing for impact.
You
Each mission runs for about 3 to 6 minutes, and a full run of the game is 7 missions. So you can knock over a run in anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how good you are and which paths you take. And that's an important point because while a run consists of 7 missions, there are actually 16-ish missions in the game, and each run you'll choose a path based on your performance in a given mission. Hit specific objectives and you'll unlock a certain path, fail to achieve those objectives or make different choices and you'll unlock a different path. This naturally lends itself to a lot of replayability since each run is like a playlist that you can remix on the fly. Over and above finishing a run is finishing it well, maximizing high scores, keeping all of your crewmates safe, earning medals, and later on, completing challenges in the dedicated challenge mode, which offers you even more intense objectives per mission. Finally, sitting alongside all of that is the option for co-op play during the campaign, where one person controls the ship and the other acts as the gunner, as well as a dedicated multiplayer mode that is surprisingly cool. It's 4v4 versus either bots or other players using either online or game share. It's PvEVP, where you have to accomplish specific objectives like capturing points, collecting things laying around, as well as a capture the flag mode that I thought was a real highlight.
Star Fox completed the objective.
So that's an overview of what this package is, but let me put it to you another way. In the modern era, we typically play through a single player game for multiple hours, expecting to experience new content throughout that playtime, and we typically stop playing the game either when we finish it or when we get bored of it. Even the single player games that we are expected to replay, like roguelikes for example, even they slowly meter out new content, typically in the form of upgrades or endgame challenges. People criticize Resident Evil games for their short 8 to 10 hour runtimes, and the response is often, they're meant to be replayed. But even then, there's still a critical mass of people who are happy to play through a Resident Evil game just once, and they'll feel like they got their fill because 8 to 10 hours was enough for them. Star Fox is a totally different value proposition, a more throwback retro proposition that says, hey, we got about 3 hours of content here if you string all the missions together, but the appeal is replayability and mastery. You don't pick up Star Fox expecting a 15-hour campaign, you pick it up expecting a 1.5-hour campaign that you play again and again, getting better at it each time, discovering new secrets and efficiencies that help you chase higher scores and more medals. Now immediately, some people are going to hear that and say, lol, what? And I get it. Expectations about the structure and content offerings of games have changed considerably in the last 30 years, and where back then Star Fox 64 was the sort of game you'd immediately and enthusiastically recommend to anyone, in 2026 it's a decidedly more niche offering. But separate from the enduring appeal of this formula and the quality of this remake, there is something else that modern Star Fox has in its corner, and it's the hardware that this is being played on. Sure, we can play lengthy 80-hour RPGs on the small Switch screen, but I'd argue that the portability of the Switch is best leveraged by shorter, more immediate experiences that can be played while on the train ride to work or during a lunch break or whatever. The mobile market is built on game sessions that last 2 to 5 minutes. Now just imagine the best mobile game you've ever played without any of the in-game spending bullshit. That's kind of what Star Fox is. To hell with Candy Crush, this is the shit you should be playing on the toilet, okay? And believe me, I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. Obviously, there's more to Star Fox's appeal than just its brevity. Its core gameplay really is pretty timeless, something that becomes immediately apparent to you once you pick up the controller and start flying. The R-Wing is the foundation, it's the thing that you're piloting the most, and it handles the same as you'll remember if you played it back in the day. The simple moveset of boosting, braking, banking, and barrel rolling is all there, incredibly responsive, really snappy, just super fun to glide around with. To see Star Fox is to want to grab the controller and play it. That was true 30 years ago, and it's still true today. It's a simple gameplay formula, but one that works well because of really smart mission design and difficulty tuning. Most of the time, you're just flying in a straight line, dodging various obstacles while trying to shoot down as many enemies as possible, but that's not as easy as it sounds, given the very specific placement of these objects and enemies and how hostile some of these levels can be, particularly on the harder pathways. What doesn't jump out at you immediately just by watching this gameplay is how clever the underlying mission design here is. It may all look like you're just flying in a straight line and shooting stuff, but nestled into each mission are a number of big and small objectives that affect things like your squad's health, the medals you'll unlock, and the pathways you're able to open up. For example, one mission sees you trying to stealthily infiltrate an enemy stronghold, and in order to do that, you need to take out every single radar sensor along the way. Fail to do that, and a certain completion path is closed off to you, forcing you toward a different mission route and potentially a different game ending.
Guess we'll have to take them all out.
Another smaller example happens in the very first mission, where Falco tries to test my flying skills by asking me to fly between a number of archers, miss one of these and the mission proceeds as normal, but nail all of them and Falco invites you down a secret path that you can't access without his invitation.
I've got eyes on a high-value target. Follow me. You'd better be right about this, Falco.
I say we trust Falco's instincts.
After you finish the game the first time, a challenge mode opens up that offers even more objectives to complete during missions. Nintendo have asked us not to share those objectives, but they aren't too surprising. They're really just about pushing committed players further, giving them an even higher skill ceiling to pursue. There are plenty of more ways that Nintendo keeps this formula interesting across the 16 missions. One of them is the all-range mode, where the R-Wing can fly in any direction in a limited open space. These missions are often highlights since they see you dogfighting with the Emperor's Chosen. And these dogfights can be really tough because the enemy AI is really good at this video game, and once they get on your ass, it can be really hard to shake them.
This can't be happening!
Not so tough now, are ya?
Teamwork. Gotta love it.
Experiencing the R-Wing like this, with its wings at full stretch and with so much more room to move around, it did awaken in me a longing for more of this, and this is sort of my biggest disappointment with the remake. See, I kind of feel like the R-Wing is too quick and too maneuverable for how narrow these main linear levels are. I hit the screen edge too often, and I feel as though I don't have enough choice with regards to my flight path. I want to really put the R-Wing through its paces, but the levels just aren't big enough to let me do that. I'm sure this is going to be a controversial opinion with purists, but if I was remaking Star Fox, I would have looked to have addressed this. I would have kept the same missions, the same objectives, the same scenario design and beats, but I would have given people a little or a lot more space on either side of that central artery, such that the original experience is still protected, but each level also offered more. More secrets, more challenges, more interesting flight paths, more space for the R-Wing to operate in. I get why that might endanger the careful balancing of this game, but I think it's a risk worth taking because it feels as though the R-Wing has more to give, and a remake would have been the perfect opportunity to let it give it.
Something's wrong with my G diffuser.
Fox, use your boosters to catch up.
Similarly, I do think a few of the missions could have done with some updating. Most of the missions have aged beautifully since their layouts and objectives still feel really engaging in every moment. Some of them though, like the all-range Area 6 mission, is just really boring since it's sort of just flying in a circle, hitting static targets, and that's about it. I appreciate the fact that Veilguard are going for a faithful remake, but there is such a thing as being a little too faithful, I think.
I've got you covered, Fox.
These complaints aside, Star Fox is defined by the cleverness and diversity of its mission design rather than any shortcomings we might nitpick at. The tank and submarine missions are particular highlights, remixing the experience in clever ways. The defense of the Great Fox is another highlight. That mission where you need to shoot down the missiles before they hit your capital ship, incredibly tense, very cool. You know what it reminds me of? Ace Combat. That is a game where you look at it and you think, oh, you're just dogfighting the whole time, right? No, you were definitely not. You were doing a whole bunch of different stuff, from strafing runs to precision flying to escorts and so much more. That mission design ingenuity, combined with precise difficulty tuning, combined with the demanding objectives and challenges, combined with the branching mission structure, means that even though missions and runs are short, they're incredibly dense and diverse, and they do keep you coming back, so long as you're the type of player that's after that focused old school challenge.
Report in, everybody.
That bomb could have been bad news. Nice work, Fox.
You next take flight. You take your hopes, the entire system with you.
While Veilguard obviously had pretty strict marching orders for keeping the core gameplay and mission design intact, they were clearly given a lot more freedom to refresh other aspects of this experience, namely visuals, music, voiceover, and storytelling. Visually, man, you can see for yourself, this is just a really lovely looking video game, though some levels do a better job of showing it off than others. Sure, you can pick out the lava level or the asteroid field and be a little unimpressed, but the real story of the visuals are the more detailed levels sporting more terrain, buildings, and spaceships. They look great, made all the better by some responsive lighting and particle effects that add a lot of pop and sizzle to the action. Nintendo has also commissioned the recording of all new music for the game. Gone is the digitized soundtrack of yesteryear, replaced with a fully orchestral soundtrack that honestly sounds incredible. I absolutely love it.
Nice little flock you've got here, Lombardi. You built a good crew, Fox.
Something I'm less in love with are these new character designs. And look, I don't want to make a big deal of it because it's all personal preference, but for me, these characters look a little too serious compared to the more stylized art direction of the past, or even more recent Nintendo games. And yes, I know these designs are based on the original 1993 designs, I get that, but I don't know how important that is. I think a really good point of reference to ground the discussion is to look at the Fox McCloud design from the Mario movie and compare that to the Fox of this remake. Personally, I think the movie kind of nailed it. I want to give Glenn Powell's Fox McCloud a hug. Whereas I'm kind of scared of this other Fox. And why does Falco look so prickly? What's really interesting though is that this more serious visual design was clearly a deliberate choice to mirror the more serious characterization and storytelling going on. Arguably the biggest change that Star Fox serves up, other than the visuals and music, is the fact that Fox McCloud is no longer an enthusiastic do-gooder who just happens to be a mercenary. He's now a very shrewd, bottom-line focused gun for hire who seems to have very little interest in anything other than his paycheck.
As promised. My crew is worth what you're paying us, General.
But Fox isn't even the worst of it. Before, Falco was a bit of a wisecracker, but here, he's a straight up asshole.
I've seen that thing in the hangar. What's it made out of? Scrap metal and chewing gum?
It makes for an entirely different storytelling tone, one that I'm kind of not on board with, to be honest. Like, I don't like this Fox McCloud. I think he kind of sucks, and I definitely don't like this Falco. I'm not sure what the goal was here, except to maybe make this appeal to a more mature audience. But if that was the goal, then I think Nintendo and Veilguard missed the mark here. Thankfully, a lot of the other changes to cutscenes and storytelling are really nice and really additive, where before the game only had radio chatter between missions, now it's got these beautifully detailed, fully animated cutscenes that allow the characters to shine a lot more, especially General Pepper, who gets a lot more dialogue. These cutscenes not only provide exposition, they also respond to the branching path structure of the game, as different cutscenes roll based on which missions are available to you next. And they do an excellent job of framing why these missions matter and why you might want to choose one over the other. It makes your decisions feel better understood and more weighty.
It sounds risky, but ignoring that creature sounds riskier.
We'll be pushing the limits like never before. But the R-Wings are up to the challenge, Fox. I know they are.
This new angle on characters and this expanded storytelling secretly makes me hope that Nintendo have plans for Star Fox that go beyond this remake. Fox and Falco being dicks in this game might make for a great character arc in an upcoming trilogy, right? It's hopium, sure, but the hopium flows because 30 years on, Star Fox still holds up, while still also being full of potential.
Decent shooting, Fox. Let's call it a tie.
I think that's actually my biggest takeaway from this latest remake. The very core of the Star Fox experience has long legs. 30 years later, it's fun to fly an R-Wing, to barrel roll, to get a bogey off your teammate's tail, to thread the needle through some narrow gap and accomplish some tricky objective. All of that stuff is here and it all works, but it does feel a little trapped in a game that in the modern era could be more. You could expand these levels to give the R-Wing a little more room to breathe. You could refresh some of this mission design. You could add some entirely new missions that feel like they were designed with those classic sensibilities while also showing off some modern flourishes. Had you done that, I think Star Fox might have found some new, broader currency in 2026, whereas I think this package is going to be quite niche. It's a really nice package, absolutely. One I'd immediately recommend to longtime fans or people with kids who are looking for a really accessible co-op game, but I do suspect that modern audiences may not be won over by its charms in quite the same way we were 30 years ago. I also think that Veilguard remaining so committed to the source material is a bit of a missed opportunity, since this remake might have been the chance for them to experiment with some new ideas and technologies that could then be redeployed in a follow-up, because I really want there to be a follow-up. The series is too cool and has too much potential for Nintendo to just keep remastering and remaking the same game over and over again. We need a proper Star Fox sequel, but for now, 30 years on, there is still a tremendous amount of fun to be had with Star Fox. I recommend it. Oh, and by the way, if you're planning on picking up Star Fox or any other Switch 2 game for that matter, there's one essential add-on that I really couldn't recommend more highly, and it's a kill switch case from this video's sponsor, dbrand. And wouldn't you know it, it's on sale thanks to their annual summer sale. dbrand's Kill Switch is pretty much the only must-purchase add-on for the Switch 2, and I am not exaggerating. The Kill Switch is a case that not only protects your Switch with a durable travel cover that provides over 100 pounds of crush-proof protection while in transit, and not only is there an option for a game card storage solution that slots into the protective cover, but it also adds ergonomic grips to the Switch 2, taking it from being a device that gives literal hand cramps to one that I love picking up because it's just so comfortable to hold for prolonged play sessions. Oh, and by the way, those Joy-Cons, they detach. The back of the kill switch is made from a really sturdy material that will protect from scratches, and it even comes with a cover made specifically for the kickstand so that won't get scratched either. But wait, there's more. The kill switch travel and ultra package comes with stick grips, which are a significant glow up, providing much more tactile texture and height. The optional screen protector comes with an idiot-proof installation tool that not even I could mess up, and I've never once been able to successfully apply a screen protector to any product before this. There are also optional skins that let you customize the look of your kill switch, but here's my favorite part. Every single kill kill switch comes with a dock adapter that lets you dock your Switch 2 while it's still in its kill switch case. And in fact, the adapter makes the Switch 2 look cooler because it becomes this sort of display item. I really love it. Right now you can get the Ultra Bundle of the kill switch for $55 off, which is easily the most discounted it's ever been. And don't forget, that's not the only discount that dbrand are running during this sale. 60% off dark plate bundles for your PS5, $10 off Prism screen protectors, $10 off phone cases with even bigger savings if you bundle it with a screen protector, and $0 off their new Steam Machine Companion Cube case. I mean, that thing's brand new. They weren't going to discount that. So grab the best Switch 2 case money can buy at an absolute steal by visiting dbrand.com/skillup. That link is below in the description and the pinned comment. Thanks dbrand for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.